Welcome to the Divorce Awakening podcast,
where you wake the fuck up after divorce.
and you realise that your best life ever is ahead of you.
Delia,
And I'm Sam Brindle.
and we're two happily divorced coaches here to show you that life doesn't end after divorce.
Mate, it's just getting started.
This is your chance to find out who you really are and build a life that you can't even imagine.
We'll be talking about purpose, career change, dating, spiritual shit, and falling in love with yourself.
Let's get into it.
Let's go!
Hi, and welcome back to the Divorce Awakening podcast. And today we're super excited because we've had a question from a listener, and she has asked us how we dealt with being triggered by our exes. She said that when we were talking about that in the last episode, it really resonated. So we are going to talk all about how to deal with getting triggered the hell out of your exes. And I guess before we do, we should talk about what is a trigger?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Because trigger is something that, we all talk about being triggered by all sorts of things. But what it actually is it's like if you get a message from someone, if you get a message from your ex, and it automatically triggers a feeling inside you, and you're not quite sure where that feeling's come from. Sometimes it can be like overly strong. Maybe you feel overly angry or overly upset, but you're not quite sure why you feel like that. And often it is because it is an automatic response from your subconscious mind. You know, if you have that, if every message you get from your ex is really nasty, then your mind is going to remember that. And even before you read the message, it's going to be expecting something mean, and you're going to have that either angry or upset, strong feeling. Or it brings up an emotion that's happened before. It's almost when you talk about your inner child, if something happened to you in your childhood and then that episode or that situation that happens, whether it is getting a message or if it's seeing somebody or if it's, I don't know, a smell or whatever it can be, can then just remind you of something that happened. It can trigger the emotion that happened when you were a kid in a similar situation.
And that makes so much sense, because if you think our inner child, they are the wounded part of us. They are the part of us that didn't have the skills. There's a mosquito. We do that. We live in Spain. It's summer. We can't let each other get eaten.
Thank you. That's what friends are for.
That's what friends are for. So it's the wounded inner child. And that part of us didn't have the capacity to know how to deal with something in a rational way. Don't they say that, obviously we are not neuroscientists, but I don't think you develop the part of your brain that can, it's different age for men and women, but it's around the age of 21 where you can fully rationalize and fully process complex emotions. And so, yeah, I think often when you're being triggered, it's that wounded inner child in you who is not good enough, or in my case is too much, is triggered. And it's your sensible Delia 42-year-old brain who can rationalize stuff goes right out the window, and you're just reacting with a very animal childlike reaction. And emotions feel big, don't they? But you don't normally, unless you've done a lot of work, and even when you've done a lot of work, you don't always know you're being triggered. It's very easy to just think, and it's easy to just think, that person's a dick.
And this is a normal response.
Yes! How dare they?
There we go.
We'll have to decide if we're going to edit out dramatic mosquito killings. No.
Yes, you don't know. Sometimes you don't know when you're actually being triggered.
Do you think it is possible that you're not being triggered and someone is just being a dick?
Yes, but I think the key thing to remember is that you have no control over somebody being a dick or not being a dick. They are their own person, responsible or not responsible for their actions. You can't change that person. You can't stop them being a dick. We might have tried. The only thing that you have full, complete control of is how you respond to that dickness.
Yes.
And so whether they are actually being really nasty or it's something that is triggering the inner child in you almost doesn't really matter. It's the way that you then respond to that and how you want to feel.
Yes.
In receiving certain comments or certain messages.
And what's interesting as well is when we talk about the wounded inner child if we take that as almost what we're defining triggering as, the reaction of a wounded inner child that is reacting from a place that's perhaps not completely rational for the situation that you're in. If you imagine that wounded inner child is healed and you no longer believe that you're too much, or you really do believe you are enough and you feel really, really healed, then if someone is a dick, maybe it doesn't bother you because you're just like,
I'm sorry that you're a dick. And I can say that I'm almost there. I haven't been triggered by my ex for a long time now. That door, we started just being nice to each other. But even other situations, you know, if I think that somebody doesn't like me, before would like send me into an absolute spiral. And now it's like, they don't. That's fine. I'm okay with that.
So it's like if we're defining being triggered, the opposite of being triggered is peace.
Yeah, and it's knowing, it's also just knowing yourself and knowing how you respond, and it's knowing that and it's changing the way you do respond in a way that feels good to you.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to be fully healed, but if you are constantly feeling angry, if you see something that reminds you of your ex, could be anything. There's people who are triggered by all sorts of things. A smell of the aftershave, or like the car they drove, or whatever it might be. And that automatic reaction is to feel really strong emotions one way or another. But just the knowing that you can decide how you respond to that.
Yeah, so let's unpack that a bit. Let's take an example and think, how can, if we're in the moment feeling triggered, what are some steps that we could take to work through it? Like, let's say you receive a text message from your ex that says you're selfish, and you immediately you feel the rage coming in. You feel so like the injustice. I am not selfish. I am doing everything for this family. How dare you? Heart starts racing. You pick up your phone. You're about to give a piece of your mind. You're absolutely triggered.
Well and truly.
Well and truly. And they're a dick. What?
So I think the first step is awareness of knowing, of being aware of the fact that you do get triggered. I think this is step number one. Knowing that this is something that you want to work on and kind of making it a bit of a priority. So, and what the triggers are. So if it is a message about being selfish and you get a message that you're selfish, it's like, okay, remember, this is one of the triggers.
Yeah.
And then you can almost see yourself go through the motions of all the different stages, just like you just described. But the next step is doing something differently.
Yes.
Because then you're breaking that automatic cycle that it's habit as well. It's something that happens so fast. But if instead of seeing the message and feeling, you could feel the emotion come up, but maybe instead of going to reply, you put the phone down and you go for a walk.
Yes. And it can be that simple. You saying that has reminded me, I'd completely forgotten about this, but I kept a trigger diary.
Oh.
Yeah, I completely forgot about this.
Wow. So there you go.
Yeah. So I would write down everything that triggered me. And it helped me see what the patterns were.
That's great.
But there was, even despite keeping my trigger diary and despite stepping into deeper awareness of being triggered, I got to a point where none of it felt like it was working. Because I was and maybe if you're listening to this, you'll know what I mean, just so triggered. Like tension's so high. Stakes are high. Like you've got children together. Like your sense of personal security and safety is completely ripped away from you. So it's not the same as like just being triggered because someone says something to you that brings up that inner wounded child. There's also this level of like very real threat to safety and security. Like your basis, like you're probably losing your home, you're changing your parenting arrangement. There's worries around children. A lot of people will worry that they might lose their children. So you have all this extra layers. And I think that makes it even harder.
Because you're operating from a level of stress up here.
Yeah. Yeah. Your baseline isn't cool.
No.
It's not like you're having a pretty good day and then someone sends you a message where you're like, fuck, I'm outraged.
You're like already running up here and then it's like, danger zone.
It's just so easy to get up there. I spent so much time up here. So I was going to share my trigger plan.
Yeah.
We have my trigger plan. And this actually came from, at the time I was working with a coach and he helped me because I realize I'm a Virgo, and that means I'm a big like planner, thinker, and spend probably too much time in my head. And sometimes I need a strategy. So I'm all about the soul and the heart, but I also need a strategy. And so I think that's the other thing if you're listening to this, like, this is where knowing yourself is really helpful. Like, what do you need? I needed a plan, a physical plan, that I put this up in my bathroom. And I think people who came around for dinner and stuff were always entertained by the by my bathroom trigger plan. Shall I read it?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So number one is I have a problem with the word prayer because of the religious connotations. But there's a prayer called the set aside prayer, which I adjusted and used the word universe instead of God. So I'm going to remove my ex-husband's name and I'll call him Bleep. Universe, help me set aside what I think about Bleep so I can have an open mind and new experiences. So that was really important for me. So sometimes when I would get a message, I would say that out loud. Like, help me set aside what I think about this person so I can have an open mind and new experiences. Because by the time you are getting divorced to somebody, let's be honest, it hasn't worked out. Your opinion of each other in that moment, even if it can change later on down the line, is not very high.
No, I'd say pretty low.
It's pretty low. And so you're often thinking the worst of that person. Yes. So this was like permission for me to not do that. And I think that's where, like, I sometimes prefer calling them mantras to prayers or whatever we want to call them, but it's like saying something out loud helps your brain like shift because it's like a setting an intention.
Yeah.
So I would say that. Second rule, ever reply when triggered, dysregulated or erasing heart. At the time, I didn't like using the word triggered.
Yeah.
Because it involved
Did
too
it
much.
trigger you?
It was triggered by the trigger. It's so triggered. Don't mention the T word. So I'd call it dysregulated.
That's cute.
Like, I'm just a bit dysregulated. So rule number 2 was that I couldn't.
I mean, what we were saying before, no? Like going for a walk, putting
Yes.
your phone down, whatever little step you could do.
Because replying when you're triggered is the single worst thing to do.
Yes.
I would say actually if there's one takeaway from this episode, it's that, right?
You're literally just pouring fire. Yeah.
Okay, number 3. What could be my most generous interpretation of this person or the situation? And trying to call out some of the stories and assumptions that I might be making. Because what I realized was when I make up stories, I make myself feel bad.
Yes.
And it's all made up.
If you're looking at this, I did this a lot. Because it's like, because you expect the worst. So you would just expect the worst and create this whole story in your head about something that they were doing.
Yeah. Or like even like, you know, if they ask you to swap dates of a parenting schedule, you're like, it's because they, I don't know, want to go off and have rampant sex all weekend. Or like, you know, you just think the worst thing. And it's like, hang on, take a step back. You're literally making up a story in your head, right? So calling out those stories when they come in. Number 4, what would love say? Or what would my higher self say? And this one I really liked because it sort of helped to see myself as 2 people. One is that I am love, and that is the state of my higher self. And the other one is that dysregulated ego responding. And so it was an interesting question to ask myself when I was triggered. What would love say? I mean, bloody hell, that is a hard question to ask when you're triggered, which takes us back to number 2. Go for that walk. And then I wrote afterwards in small letters, the suffering mind replies with dick energy.
So good.
Right?
So good. Because it does.
It does.
If you respond when you're dysregulated.
Thank you. Don't trigger me, Sam.
You're going to reply something dickish. You're going to reply in that mode, in that frequency.
Yeah.
If they say you're selfish, you're going to reply to say, fuck you.
You're going to reply like the selfish person.
Yeah.
You're going to reply the person that they're calling you out to be.
Yes.
Okay, number 5. What relationship do I want to have with him in 5 years? That was a really good one because I thought about our daughter. And I think that's where, when you have kids with the person you've divorced, it's a blessing and a curse, right? It's difficult because you know that they're going to be in your life forever. And it's also a blessing because you have to do all this work. You can't just block them.
You were fishing for the blessing there, weren't you?
I was right.
You were fishing for the blessing.
Fishing for the blessing.
But yeah, you have to do all of this work.
You have to do this work. You have to think about the option of like that question, what do I want this relationship to be like in 5 years' time, is relevant. Whereas if you didn't have a kid together, you can delete that question. You can delete most of this. You can just block them if you want. Okay, number 6. I'm excited and curious about how I can expand and deepen my experience of love for this person. Another version, which I found that a little bit too intense sometimes because it felt so far removed from my reality, was I'm excited and curious about how I can use love to have a different experience with this person. And then another point was, when we're struggling or triggered by somebody, it is often due to a lack of acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And, because you might be going back and forth on something that you're disagreeing with, or you don't accept what they've said. And so another mantra I took on was, I can accept even if I don't agree. So it's like, it's okay to not agree, but I also have to accept that this is the reality, whether it be his request or whatever. That is who he is. And I accept that, even if I don't agree with it. There's so much power in acceptance.
Because when you don't accept, if you don't accept what the present moment is presenting to you, then there's like an internal struggle, and then you're not at peace in that moment.
Yeah.
If you're resisting what he's saying to you, the mosquitoes bag. No. If you resisting the present moment, you're not going to be feeling peaceful. You're going to feel dysregulated.
And then there's some other notes I wrote here on the back, which is just generally, if I'm really struggling with this, then I had some extra questions I would ask myself. So if I'm really struggling right now, I would ask myself, what can I do about my perspective on this? Because that is the only thing I can change. Question number 2, is this how I want to experience this? Because again, we choose our experiences. And 3, am I open to seeing him another way? Could I receive his messages in a different way? And I would go through this. It was on my bathroom wall and it really helped.
I wish I'd had one of these.
If you're listening to this and you're in trigger stage, get the plan. Get the plan. We could probably sell it as a low ticket offer.
Oh, it's a great list. It's a great plan.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you feel we need to address on triggers? Anything we haven't covered?
I think for me, the most important thing is to recognize that it's really easy to throw blame and put the responsibility on the other person. Like, they did this to me. They did the other thing to me. They made me feel like this. They keep doing this and I keep feeling like this. But you cannot stop them. You can block them, but you can't change the way they're acting. And so, but when you're blaming them and you're making yourself the victim that they're doing that to you, you're taking away all of your power.
Yes.
Because the power is then with them, because they are doing the thing that makes you feel like this. Like, you have no choice over how you're feeling about it. It's just it's completely out of your control.
Yeah.
They send you a message and I get upset. But when you turn it around and you realize that they can do whatever the hell they want to do, not your business. Your business is knowing that you are the one who has the power to change how you feel.
Wow. I can't think of a better way to end this episode. The power. Bring back the power. And it is in your control. Amazing. So we'll wrap it up now. And we'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now. Bye.